Hey guys, it's me. So today, I have a topic. It's I might have two depending on how long the video is. But I got a comment on one of my posts on one of the Ehlers-Danlos Facebook pages. And it's risks of bearing children and also passing it on to them, which is a very good topic. So for those of you that don't know, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is genetic, so you can pass it on to your offspring. And it doesn't even have to be, the person doesn't have to directly have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome in order to pass it down. It can be, just through your family history. If anyone in your family is showing like symptoms, there's always a chance that your offspring can have those symptoms as well. So this is a good topic. I'm trying to think of where to begin. So the risks of bearing children. There's the obvious vaginal delivery. If you have a baby vaginally with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it puts you at I'm not sure what the percentage, but you're at a really high risk of causing damage to your pelvis and hips, I believe. Because your pelvis can actually pull apart, and I think with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it's just not going to go back together. So it's just going to cause you so much pain. So all my doctors have told me, you just make sure if you ever were to have a baby, you need a C-section. So there's that risk, is just causing permanent damage to your pelvis or hips. Then, there's the article that I pulled up, actually. There was one thing I saw that I definitely want to go over. Okay, you're also at risk, for needing an early C-section too. Sometimes people will just be in some significant pain, and it's a pain that will not go away until the baby is out, because the pain is probably caused by the baby. But I know there's been a case of a woman who's had an early C-section due to just pain that would not go away. I think there's always the risks of bleeding. I'm not sure. I don't have the vascular type EDS. I have hypermobility type. So I'm not sure what the risks of VEDS in childbearing are, but I can only assume that bleeding is definitely going to be an issue for you. But yes, in this article, let me read you this little paragraph I have up. There are no obstetric management guidelines for patients with EDS, which reflect the wide range of potential type-specific implications, as well as the range of severity within these types. Pregnancies in patients with EDS hypermobility type, as illustrated by this case, can be well tolerated and with good outcomes following cesarean section delivery. This suggests obstetric management plans should be made on a case-by-case basis, taking into account the diagnosis of type and severity of EDS to optimize maternal and neonatal outcomes. So, from the conclusion of this little study that I read, it says that there's really no type-specific implications found with childbearing. So it seems that getting pregnant with EDS is not really so much of an issue. It's the symptoms that will probably come with it. There's going to probably be more pain. Your hormones are kind of going to go. So if you have hormone-related issues, that's going to throw you out of whack. There's the risk of, some cases people are not fertile. So there's the fertility issue. So I don't know if it's an EDS thing or not, but I think I read that there's fertility issues that go along with EDS. Yeah, so it's all in all, the risks of childbearing are not that significant to me. I still have to do a lot of more reading on it, but from what I read today, it doesn't seem to give severe complications. There's just been the cases of the early cesarean section. There was an issue with a woman who was unrelated to childbearing, had nose surgery and was bleeding significantly, and they needed to transfuse her. She had the vascular type EDS, I believe. So there's the risk of bleeding during your C-section too. I mean, it's mostly giving birth seems to be the hardest part. You know, all throughout the 9 months, depending on each person, it should relatively be a typical pregnancy, but up till giving birth is when it switches up. That seems to be the only thing where I can find risks in, is definitely when you're giving birth, either vaginally or via C-section. But those are just kind of basic risks in general with anyone. Someone who can be perfectly healthy can still bleed out. Someone who's perfectly healthy can still injure their pelvis, So it's hard to tell. And I think whoever wrote this article also had a hard time determining too. So we'll just have to keep reading. I'm going to post the link to the article that I read on my YouTube channel, actually, because it's a good one. It goes off of the experience of 2 or 3 patients with EDS and who gave birth. So, now, passing EDS on to your offspring. And that's its own issue. Now, EDS is genetic, so anyone in your family who has it, who has a baby, makes the baby at risk of having Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Let me discuss a little bit about my family history with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's not going to take a while. It's pretty quick because I only suspect one person of having it, and it's my dad. My sister shows some signs and symptoms of it. She's got the really bad stomach issues that I've had growing up, but my stomach issues later turned into other issues. So I'm keeping an eye on her. But yeah, so my dad is the only one who I can really think of as having Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Actually, he probably wouldn't fit the criteria. That's the thing. He's got it so it's very minimal for him. It doesn't bother him. It doesn't really affect him. But all I know is that when I was going through all of my doctor's appointments with him and all of this stuff, and we've had so many conversations, that he would always just say, yeah, growing up I had this issue, I had that issue, my knees hurt, my joints, my knee would always lock up and stuff, and I'm like, huh, that's interesting. And I was like, so you didn't do anything about it? And he says, no, I didn't think it was anything at the time. And so that's the issue, is people are feeling their bodies and realizing that they are having these issues, but they don't do anything about it because they don't think there's anything wrong with them. But don't ignore your symptoms, because you know your body best. I know when my body's feeling different than it usually does. I wake up in pain, I go to bed in pain. I can wake up one day and it will be a different type of pain. That's the one thing people don't understand, is there's different types of pain, there's different levels, there's different I'll wake up, I'll have a really bad knee pain, and it'll just be achy, probably from doing too much on my like walking the day before. But then the next day I can wake up and it'll be a shooting pain, and I'm like, this is not from doing too much exercise. This is from something else. I need to see a doctor. So reading your body is the best way to get results, because only you know how you feel. A doctor can help you, a doctor can tell you things, but a doctor's not going to know exactly what's going on inside of your body, because he cannot feel for you. So that's why it's also important to advocate for yourself. I'm huge with advocating for myself, because I've just learned how my body feels. Lately, I've noticed my stomach issues have gotten a lot worse. I had an appointment February 6th. I don't know if that was yesterday or the day before. Lose track of my days. But I just had one recently, and he was good. He's not EDS educated, but that's another thing. You don't need an EDS specialist as long as you know your body and as long as you know if this is the right course of treatment. It's all trial and error, I feel like, with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I feel like there's no wrong answer and there's no right answer. Whatever you want to do to try to help yourself, do it. It could be something ridiculous. But, so, my dad had, all of the knee issues, and his knee would lock up and stuff, but he never thought anything of it until I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. But he still hasn't done anything about it, and it's okay, because it doesn't bother him, or at least he says it doesn't bother him. So he's the only one I can think of who passed it down to me genetically. My mom's adopted, so I really don't know her side of the family. There's a chance I could have gotten it from her, but I just won't ever know. Yeah, so growing up with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome has kind of put things into perspective for me a little bit. It's made me definitely realize I do not want to have children. It's not for everyone. I've always been, even before my diagnosis with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I've always been kind of off-put by having children. It's just not for me. I don't have the maternal skills, or I just don't have that motherly thing for me. And that it works out, because my doctor told me that I am not fertile and that I would need to have all these treatments in order to potentially have a child. And he seemed like I was going to be upset by that news, but I wasn't. I've already kind of had my decision made before I was told that I didn't really want kids. But he was just trying to reassure me that, it was okay and we can try other options. And I was like, I don't want kids. I'm okay. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this decision. My body does not want me to have children, and I will oblige what my body is telling me. So that kind of leads me into my opinion on having children with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Now, this is my own opinion. This does not mean anything. I personally will never have children because of my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I do not want to pass or have any chance of it passing on to my offspring. I would rather, try a surrogate or adopt if I ever do decide I wanted, a little monster. But, yeah, it's just not for me. Especially since growing up with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, being in pain every day. I mean, maybe not every day I'm in pain, but definitely as much as I can remember. I'm always in pain. I've always been in pain. I don't want my kid to grow up with, feeling the types of feelings that I have. I don't want them to feel like they're limited due to a sickness. I don't want anyone to look at them differently. I don't want them to look at them as if they don't have an illness either. So those, just for that, my opinion is I would not personally reproduce. But there's so many other people that just would love to have a child, and that's totally okay. The only thing is you have to know the risks and of passing it on to your child. Are you going to be okay knowing that your child may potentially have this issue growing up? Are you going to be okay knowing your child may never always feel the best, or they may not, have a lot of friends because of their issues, I was always kind of that lone kid. I did my own thing. I never really felt great, so I just kind of kept it to myself. I just don't want a kid to go through what I did, what I have. But definitely, if you want a child, have a child. There's no reason for you to not reproduce because of this. This is a livable illness. I just want a baby. If I were to have a baby, I just would want my baby to be healthy. And knowing that my baby will not, or has a chance of being not healthy, especially with all my other underlying issues and then the genetics of my mom and dad's side, there's just a risk of having, it could, my baby could even just have acid reflux. I don't want my baby to have reflux. I want them to be healthy. So that's just where I stand with that. But yeah, so that's kind of my my spiel about risks of bearing children and also passing it on to them. Yeah, so let me think. Let me see how long this video is. It is gonna be 20 minutes. Okay. So, I guess I'm gonna wrap it up because my video can only last 20 minutes. So, yeah. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, Facebook me. I think I posted my link to my Instagram or Twitter. I don't know. I posted stuff for any way to contact me. Yeah. Trying to think of what else I'm missing. Oh yes, I'm going to post that link to risks of a childbearing in my Facebook page, on my YouTube, on the video. I'm trying to think. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh yes, also, February 9th, tomorrow, actually, there's going to be an EDS table set up at Boston Children's Hospital. I can also give the information to that in my description for the video too. So, I hope everybody has a good day, and I will post again when I get another topic. All right, thanks guys.